Hey, hey, Chris, how are you going? How's Los Angeles this morning?
Hi, Nhung. It's fantastic. Thank you for making this happen, reaching out, and I know it's been a few months actually. You've been after me.
Yes, I was like, oh my God, I need to get a hold of Chris because, like I've mentioned, I've been following you for quite some time, and with the daily messages and messages you put on, throughout 2020, it has really helped impacted my mood, and really brought some light into me as well. So I was like, gotta talk to this guy.
It's wonderful to hear. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, Los Angeles, how long have you been living here? And what are your favorite spots to go to?
Yeah, LA. I mean, LA has something to offer for everyone. I've been here for 26 years.
Oh, right.
I came here for college and never left. And I had traveled extensively previously to that, all over the world, and really fell in love with the place. It took a while, but that's because the details, the nuances, is where the fun and the pretty and
Mm,
the engaging things are to be found. At the surface, if you first land, it's it's a city, but when you go into the neighborhoods and to the different areas and you realize there's so much more. In fact, there's everything. LA area has everything to offer. There's the city itself, but all the surrounding areas. It's sprawling. It's everything from obviously the beach. We've all heard of Venice Beach and
yeah.
South Beach and all the wonderful beaches. There's so many different beaches, and each one has their own flavor and own character. If you want to surf, if you just want to sunbathe, if you want to fly a kite, I mean, there's just everything's there, or just take walks. But then you have the mountainous regions, so everything within driving distance that I'm about to describe. So you can go head into the mountains during the summer, especially if you like mountain biking or just hiking. They're all around as close as the Topanga Canyons, which are all within minutes. And then there's larger mountain ranges around Big Bear and Mammoth. And in the winter, Mammoth turns into world class ski resort if you're into skiing or snowboarding. So that's within reach. And then you have the desert cities and the desert areas from Palm Springs and Palm Desert, and Coachella's out there, and I spend a lot of time out there. And it's just something for everyone.
No, it sounds so diverse, but the thing is obviously from Australia, I'm so far from everything. The reason why I made it all the way out here is because I want to explore this side of the world. And through my travels, I met a lot of friends from America and stuff as well. So LA, I've never actually thought about it, but with you introducing all these diversity, I'm like, oh my God, now I'm curious. I want to know.
Well, it's diverse for sure. I mean, and you can, every day is different, and that's really kind of the vibe. And if you like your routines and just kind of have everything be in its place and predictable, it may not be the right place for you. But if you love waking up and letting the day unfold,
Mhm.
uh, it can be magical.
No, that's amazing. And you did mention that you traveled quite a lot as well. So I know, as a traveler, when people ask you, what is your most favorite place in the world? Like, I got to ask them, what is your favorite destination that you've been to?
Hands down, Bali.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's especially if you're into some of the topics we'll be talking about.
Mm.
It's just a really wonderful place. Everyone there is on a journey and is seeking and is open-minded, and it's just a really wonderful place. And it has other parts, for scuba diving and oceans and fishing and marine biology and really wonderful and partying if you're into that. It's all there. It's
Of
part
course,
of
of course. You know,
exactly.
we do have a reputation, Australians have the party reputation there. But I got to say, when I visited Bali last year for the first time, I love Ubud. I'm guessing that was your favorite place too,
That was my
or?
favorite place as well. Yeah, I couldn't get away from the yoga barn and all the different yoga studios
Hmm.
and meditation teachers and just the vibe, the energy. It's kind of like New York City that has a buzz, but it's in that kind of spiritual
Very much, yeah.
and vein. Yeah. So highly recommend it. In fact, a lot of Australians, it's just a hop, skip, and a jump for you guys. It's a
Think
bit of
about it, like for Americans, I guess Hawaii is like that, relaxing, beachy kind of resort place for them. I guess Australia, that it's like the Hawaii equivalent.
yeah,
Yeah, that's how I think about it. Um,
totally.
but fun fact, I don't know if I told you last time, I moved to Vancouver is because I fell in love with Hawaii. So
Okay.
Yeah, I went there 3 years ago with my best friend, and I don't know, it was kind of like a special moment where I just had this realization, well, the world is so big, I should move here. But obviously, you need to either find a job or a Hawaiian husband to move there, and obviously, you didn't find it either. So Google mapped how far, Hawaii is going to be from Canada, because it's easier for Canadians, I'm sorry, Australians to apply for the visa here. So that's why I'm in Vancouver right now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you made it happen. The things you told me on our last call was really amazing in your own journey and taking, but there's a calling there, right, that presents itself, and sometimes we act on it, sometimes we don't. In your case, you didn't linger long. You went for it, and that takes courage. It takes guts, and especially earlier in life, it's hard to, there's so many different outside voices telling you what to do, and how
Yeah.
do you listen to your inner voice and to do what's right for you? So
I know, Chris. And like it's an internal struggle. But like, hey, like how did you let's hear about your journey. So you've been a psychologist kind of researcher for quite some time, and throughout your journey, is it found your spirituality, and that's why you went on this path? Like, yeah.
yeah, everything we do in life, it comes together. Everything informs the next thing. So we never do anything that's for nothing.
Mm.
Even when we feel like we're kind of a dead end job, or things are stale and not moving, with a few years, extra years, you realize that everything has its purpose. And I was a design psychology researcher, and for over 20 years, and user experience design thinking instructor, and teacher, and everything's prepared me ultimately. So I had the application of those skills for the marketplace.
Mm.
But it wasn't until the last 5 years or so that I really turned that inward and applied it to the questions I had that I've always had, but that weren't central to my life, and that suddenly became so very important to find answers to. And part of the frustration of not finding answers really was motivated the book. And BU is written, there's really two principles that motivated it. Was one, the language I was encountering in all the other literature and videos, and a lot of the kind of the spiritual talk, it presented a barrier to me. I felt some of it even can be off-putting to someone. If there's wisdom behind all of it is genuine and real, and ultimately we're all pulling from the same truth. But the language was getting in the way for me to assimilate it.
Mm-hmm.
And so the big motivation was to write something in pedestrian, every person's speak, so that the language wouldn't get in the way of the wisdom.
That's right.
Yeah. And then the second piece was discoverability, which is a little more directly related to my background of creating meaningful and joyful experiences for audiences. And users, and that was to make things discoverable. So I was frustrated by not finding, where do I look, what keywords, literally, how I had to read books to find a passage that applied to me, or watch an hour-long video just for a few sentences that applied to me. And so I felt like there's some improvement could be made there in allowing people to jump to the topics and discover the topics that were meaningful and that mattered to them at that particular point in life. And so BU has all these chapters in more of a glossary style structure, and so you can look up whatever's on your mind and in your heart.
That's amazing, to be able to, I guess, accumulate all of these wisdoms and research over the years to make something that's universally, I guess, connectable for people. And would you say that you had an awakening? I hear this term so much, especially throughout 2020, because like I told you in our last conversation, I think it has been a year of healing and really getting back in tune with my spirituality. And the way I interpret spirituality is so different now. It's not like, obviously hippies or like, yoga and stuff like that. It's actually more of like uplifting one's spirit. That's how I see it. Yeah. So would you say that maybe 5 years ago was that awakening for you, or like, what was your experience with that?
Yeah. Yeah, certainly. And again, the word spiritual for a lot of people, that's already a barrier, right? It
Yes.
represents something, a concept, and they may not be comfortable with. And so these just simple words, but they can create some friction.
Mm.
Um, and it was certainly, even the word awakening or enlightenment, all these things. So there's no word, the word spiritual or awakening doesn't show up in the book once, or universe, or any of that stuff, because there's just a certain existing concept that might get in the way of the meaning of the word. So
Mhm.
deeper concept behind them. Yes, but for the sake of discussion, you could call it an awakening. It was less about, many people talk about having, often they hit rock bottom, or some kind of dramatic event in life. And really that's how most of our growth happens, is we get comfortable in our routines, and our expectations set in, and then something jarring has to happen for us to let go of those expectations, and push us out of our comfort zones, right?
Mhm.
So that didn't really happen to me so much. It was more just energetically, or however else you want to describe it. I was starting to teach at the continuing education level, and I was starting to give back in general in my life. I just reached that stage. So I think along with that, just the sentiment of shifting out of my headspace and more into my heart space, it's just naturally happened. There was a rapid acceleration, if you want to call it that. I don't know what caused it. It just happened.
It's your calling. I would say. No, that's awesome. Um, because I guess I asked you last time when I reached out to you, like, why is it important to be you? And that's the concept you book, the title of your book. Like, why is it important?
Yeah, I mean, it's ultimately our life journey consists of um, first becoming aware of the voices that are not our own. So we get just, it's natural in the course of growing up. There's our parents' voices, our peers, our teachers, our society, media. We're just bombarded with you should be this, you should do that, you're good at this, and pursue this, and social prestige, and so on and so on. And we're just little beings, forming brains.
Yeah.
And so all of these layers of outside voices, they consume us. And by the time we come of age, we don't even remember our own voice. And there's very little in life. Maybe if you have, particularly enlightened parents, or some kind of environment that nurtures that inner voice. But in the regular course of the social structures that exist currently, that is never, we're never taught the tools to go within, look within, process our feelings.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of, it's not part of the normal upbringing at this point in time.
Not at all. And that's the thing, like, when I reached out to you, because I was just like, for so long, the reason I felt like, I didn't have a core identity, and everything that grows, everything that, comes strong, you need to have a strong foundation or a strong core. And that's what I realized last year. I was like, oh my God, sometimes I felt so anxious, like internally, and I didn't know why. And a lot of like the upbringing I was telling you about, with Asian communities or family when growing up, you don't talk about things or feelings, because even bringing up mental health or bringing up something that you want to speak about is being disrespectful to your parents, and I was like, oh my God, so why do I have to bring it up, or I'll just brush it under the rug? And like I said, my parents went through a divorce, that quite a messy divorce, when me and my brother were younger. So a lot of that pent up anger and resentment built up. And what I did was I created like a kind of like external identity to protect myself, So, and it's not me being fake, it's just me having an external kind of shell to be able to go through life. And, doing that inner work, or, being open to, let's say, feeling the feelings was not a thing. So over time, I realized that it became more of like imbalance in terms of like how I projected my emotions and feelings, or I might see more of like a cold hearted person, but I just didn't know how to express myself. And like what you brought up, but being aware and doing the inner work has definitely released a lot of that last year. And I was just speaking to my brother a few days ago, and he's like, he's completely different to me. Like, I'm very extroverted. I like to go out, be active, and just like be out with friends and social to deal with things. But for him, he was more introverted growing up. So for him, he was able to cry it out, process the things. So I was like, wow, how come I never got into that? Like, crying was not an option for me. Like, I just felt like, no, it was seen as a weakness, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, many, one of my posts is tears are your friends, right? But there's
Yeah.
so many taboos, especially, it's interesting to hear because especially for guys, it's hard to, they're told to keep in those tears and the emotions and not let it flow. So you have an interesting inverse situation there. But yeah, ultimately, your upbringing contained the kind of the clash of the Eastern and mindset, and then some Western mixed in, and so that probably brought just the contrasts of what it doesn't have to be one way or it doesn't have to be another way to the forefront. I had to confront them sooner in life than many others.
Yeah, well, that's good. I was like, I wish I was open to it, or I kind of had like the tools or the guidance, and I think coming from a smaller city and community where you don't know anyone that's going through the same thing, it just makes it harder. Like you feel a bit like an outlier, an outcast. I don't know if I mentioned it to you, but like, when the divorce and everything was going when I was growing up, like I had a friend who her parents told her not to hang out with me anymore because my parents were broken, family's broken. So I think that kind of caused a bit of that fear to be able to, just let things out or show the weakness. So I think that's something that's where it stemmed from. But yeah.
Of course, and these things happen when often it comes from well-meaning places. Parents say something or a teacher says something, and maybe it's just, jokingly or whatever the reason, it affects us and we carry it with us. And no one taught us to process it out. And so then it starts to build and become something bigger. But therein lies the big shift. Really is to recognize that whenever we feel triggered, that's an opportunity to look within. Right? The initial reaction is, don't trigger me, try to change your environment, blame other people.
Yeah.
But ultimately, once you get to a place where like, well, I wouldn't feel triggered if I didn't have some kind of wound inside, some kind of internal healing that needs to happen. So once we turn around that mindset and realize, okay, I feel triggered, I'm going to now sit with this, try to avoid conflict in the situation as best as possible, stay out of reactivity, but then sit with that feeling of like, why do I feel triggered? And that is your golden, it's your line straight to where you need to heal. And that's ultimately, feeling triggered is the best way to grow. And your main GPS really is like, well, where do I need to heal? Well, you're being triggered all day long. So those are the areas. Otherwise, you wouldn't even react if there wasn't something in you responding.
Yeah, that is very true. Well, I came up with a creative analogy recently that I've been telling my friends. So I don't know if you remember the movie, like the Furby movies, where like when it gets triggered by water, it turns to a gremlin. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Gremlins, I got it.
So basically, externally and everything like that, I'm like the cute fairy on the outside. I look like I got it together all the time. And like the water is like, life triggers, and back then, I got triggered by water, I'll turn to a gremlin. That's the reactive kind of like behavior. But, by recognizing that the water is the trigger, I am now able to maintain a cute Furby. So I don't know.
That's beautiful. I love that. Yeah, coming out of reactivity is the key. As long as we keep reacting, the same neural pathways in the brain are, they keep being irritated and inflamed. And so we never come out of reactivity. And as long as we're reactive, we can't really look within. So there's many different exercises, and everything can be rewired and undone. You just have to, take the time. So that's where, having a daily practice of self-care comes in.
That's definitely. And what would you just suggest is like a good practice or method for, let's say, calming these inner critics, this inner voice that people might be going through?
Well, there's many, many different ways, and everyone should do research and try things out. There's so many flavors to choose from, and some may resonate with you at one point in life and not at another, or they work now and then they kind of just lose their effectiveness, and then you have to keep seeking. and finding something new that works for you. So the general seeker mindset is important to have, but there's guaranteed something that you can find. For me, it's I call it in the book, I call it thought awareness. So most of our reactivity comes when we identify, when we're completely glued, identified with our thoughts.
Oh, yeah.
Thought pops up and you just believe it. You're in it. You react to it.
Yeah.
It's like you're just glued to it. And to create a gap there, a sense of perspective on the thought that you are not your thoughts. A simple exercise, many of the breath, kind of breath work and breath meditations have the same effect, essentially. When you focus on your breath, and I do this, eyes and mouth closed, and I just kind of, for a few minutes, observe the breath coming in out of my nose, you'll immediately feel thoughts pulling your attention away.
Yeah.
Here it goes again. Here comes a thought and pulls me away. And so every time you notice that, you're not your thought anymore. You've created, it may take you away for 5, 10, sometimes even 20 minutes. You may just be lost in thought, right? This happens to us all day long. I mean, I'm not here to quote science, but some people say, we spend 85% of our day lost in thought. But the moment you come out of it, it's like, oh, I was just lost, and now I'm back. I was here the entire time, but I wasn't really here emotionally, mentally. So noticing when you come out of that, out of the lost in thought state, that strengthens your muscle to stay independent of your thoughts, so you don't get lost into them as often, as long. And the more you practice this thought awareness, the more you can stay, disidentified from your thoughts. And so much of our stress, so much of our reactivity comes from believing our thoughts, right? And so then when the thought appears, you can observe it better. There's still things that are going to get us. It's a lifelong, practice. But you can notice there's a thought. I don't have to believe it. I don't have to follow it. I don't have to react to it. And you just allow it to be. And by allowing it to be, it actually, it leaves. Thoughts come and go. Feelings come and go. Yeah. It's only when we hang on to the ones we like, and when we resist the ones we don't like, that's what gets them stuck. And that's what creates most of our stress and our problems.
That is very true. And it's like practicing mindfulness, because I have actually got into meditation last year as well. Like, I've always been very energetic. I just can't sit still, and yoga was horrible for me. I would fall asleep in the back of the class because I was like, no, it's too calm. But like what you suggested as well, like having that ability to practice the breathing exercise, it has really helped me a lot with like the overcoming my overthinking problem. Carrying that illusion for me where I just think too much, too far ahead, where it's something that hasn't happened yet, and I think a lot of my stress, trying to keep up to the expectations of, parents or of social society, was caused from a lot of that. And another thing that I have done as well is like when I feel like I'm, I guess my head is racing away so long, I'd be like, attention here and now, and be like, oh, come back, kind of thing. Yeah.
That's really important that you bring that up, because we're primed to view and experience life through our head, through our headspace. The education system, grades, feeling judged. We're conditioned to work towards the next goal.
Yeah.
And then we're also conditioned to expect happiness to come once we achieve something.
That's right.
So then we're never really present. We're always living for a future moment in time that never comes, because we're always in the future. And that's when you can tell when you start feeling that way, and that anxiety that comes over you, that you're in your head, because the head is it's a tool, and it needs to know. It's the nature of the mind. It wants to know. It wants to plan ahead. So we can't even take a shower without thinking, what are we going to do when we get out of the shower? What's next? What's next? Always taking you out of the present moment and into some future moment. And that's where fear lives.
It does.
Anxiety and all that. So it's just simple exercises, a few minutes a day. And then if you like it, you can do more, or do some research. If, like you said, it took me years to really start enjoying meditation. So that might not be your thing, but there's sound therapy, there's inner child, there's art therapy, there's just even simple routines like walking and um, certain essence and food. You can get into food and really find peace within that and greater awareness. I mean, there's so much we can do to strengthen mindfulness, mindful living.
No, that's a good like thing to bring up, because meditation is I guess there's so many different kind of like methods in different ways, because I didn't realize this, but I used to just go to do like 10K beach runs like back at home, because I don't know if you know much about Adelaide, where I'm from.
I don't, but it sounds wonderful.
It's
Keep
great. Beautiful beaches. It's a smaller city compared to the rest of Australia, but we're known to be the city of churches and festivals and wineries. So if you love your wine, yeah, you have to come visit Adelaide. But yeah, I only lived like 30 minutes drive from the bay. And what I realized back then, because I didn't know how to process a lot of my emotions and the stress I was going through, meditation for me was the long beach runs, just in there, and I would just zone out. And that was really helpful in a way, because I needed to release the energy at the same time while being by myself. But this year I'm trying to balance that out, because I'm like, I can be active, but then I need to also learn how to be still as well.
Yeah, that's great. And moving is really core to getting the energy moving, and those stuck feelings that we were talking about. You can meditate and breathe and kind of be in your body, but it's not until you move that, it's a combination of movement and stillness, like you said. Doing too much moving or not even moving, sitting. But both of those need to be absolutely pronounced. And going into nature is huge. Just not just moving, but being surrounded by that stillness and that peace is super important.
Definitely the environment. Hey, you did mention like inner child healing. What is that? I've never heard of it before.
Right. So again, you can research these things and find more information and see if it resonates. But it's essentially it's called inner child. It's basically reparenting yourself. Maybe your parents said something silly or stupid that you remember being a certain age and that hurt you. Probably didn't do it on purpose, but it's just how you perceived it at that moment in time. And it's important to come out of the blame mindset, and forgiveness is really is about allowing yourself to heal, and it's not letting other people off the hook for what they've done. But so it's basically being the aware, mindful adult that you are today, that you can go back, and that hurt inner child is still there. It's inside of you, that wound from that moment in time. And so you basically become the loving and caring parent that maybe all you needed was a hug. Maybe all you needed was to feel heard at that moment, and you didn't get it. Well, you can be that parent to yourself, to your inner child now at a later time. And so a lot of great healing can come from that.
Wow. So is it like kind of like role playing with yourself, like, Nhung, you're okay, and
You could describe it as that. Yeah, absolutely.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I haven't really heard of that method before, but yeah, I don't know if I mentioned last time to you, but I did try hypnotherapy last year, and I tried emotional coding. I was like, why not? Open to it. And yeah, I did tarot reading as well. I was like,
yes, everything, and even myself, I've had different levels of resistance to many of those things. And really there shouldn't, that's just mental emotional resistance. That's the conditioned layers of like right and wrong. That's the judging mind. And when you practice coming out of that mind, more and more you become open to at least trying these things. There's nothing wrong with trying. If you don't like it, if it doesn't resonate, you don't have to do it. Nobody's forcing you. But at least start getting into this flow of discovery and self-discovery, and then feeling what how you lighten up. Life suddenly doesn't seem so complicated. You feel like you're there's a path that unfolds itself all on its own, and you don't have to figure out your life, but ahead of actually living it, right? So this starts to build this momentum of positive momentum and core. You mentioned the word core before, where you have a foundation in yourself, and so you stop shifting from the external view that we're so ingrained to to live by, and you become more internal, and then you don't need to compare yourself anymore. Then you don't need to say these people are right, these people are wrong, I'm right, you're wrong. And so that whole comparison falls away, because you recognize that your truth is your truth, the next person's truth is their truth. You don't need them to be different for you to feel right and for you to feel good about yourself.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, it took me a while to kind of understand that, you know, because for me, I used to be so angry. Like, you know, my parents were like, oh, my mom especially, it was like, why couldn't she see or view things my way? Why she keep hurting me? But then I didn't realize that, you know, maybe her values or the things that she saw was right was different to mine. So when I actually learned to accept that, that kind of like broke away a bit of that pressure. I'm like, okay, I can't compare what I think or my values compared to someone else, because sometimes it's not the same. And you're lucky if you do find your soul mate, or, you know, someone that really resonate with you. But yeah, I think a lot of the unhappiness was, you know, being very egotistic in a way, like it has to be my way, like, you know, or having that, like, you know, why are you doing this to me, rather than just be like, I want to do this because I just want to do it, you know. And yeah, like breaking away from that was hard, but it took a while. But that's why I find it so interesting. Like when I was finally okay to be alone and sit alone and be still, I'm like, man, I'm actually have a lot of wisdom.
Yes, you do. We all contain, I mean, we have, every cell contains a, you know, incredible wisdom, and we all share that. There's no one is less wise than the other. It's just
Yeah.
how much are we, you know, blocking ourselves from
Hmm.
feeling and experiencing that, and just allowing that flow of wisdom to enter our lives. And it's all the beliefs that are blocking us from it, that we believe something is better than another. You
Yeah.
mentioned really a key word there, loneliness, which kind of has a negative, you know,
Yep.
connotation, but it's, you know, aloneness. It's being with yourself.
Yeah.
There's a whole chapter dedicated to loneliness, or me time, a much
Mhm.
better way to phrase it, in the book, and really kind of breaks open the social stigma. I remember a few years ago, I actually, because I was usually always the type of guy who wouldn't go out without meeting somebody.
Yep. Mhm.
And I first went out, you know, only a few years ago to eat on my own, for example,
Mhm.
go to a restaurant and just sit at the counter and myself. And I remember that the discomfort I was experiencing this, and I was like, why am I feel? Are people looking at me, and like, do you think I'm weird? I'm like, where did all of this come from? Um, and
It's all in
so
your mind. It's all in your mind.
yeah, you're ingrained with it, and so, you know, taking time to learn to be comfortable on your own.
Mm.
And, you know, there's a certain measure where we need human contact for sure, but it's far less than where, for the most part, we use socializing as a distraction
Yeah,
from learning to be comfortable with ourselves.
that is so true. And you know what? Like, when I was back at home, I would say that I would fear being alone. Like every single day I finish work, I'll be like, hey, to like one of my friends, let's go out eat, let's go out eat. And it became like a habit, you know, like I just couldn't bear by being alone. What backpacking really helped me, you know, realize when I did it solo was that you are put in situations where some days you have to, you know, hang out by yourself, like go out, eat somewhere by yourself. And it was very comforting to just be like, I just want to read a book and sit
Yeah.
here by myself on the beach, you know? But like you know, that discomfort at first was just like, oh man, people might think I'm a loser and some of that. But after
Yeah.
a while, like you feel like the, I don't know, satisfaction of like, oh, this is very peaceful. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, it's beautiful, and again, you know, the media. Where do we ever see, you know, people having a good time by themselves? It's just we don't see those images. It's always groups and people doing things together. And relationships is a similar thing. So there needs to be just as much space and stillness in relationships as well. It's not just being, you know, joined at the hip. It sounds romantic and it's great. It can be great, but there still
Yeah.
needs to be time. You can be that, but
Yeah.
you still need time apart. It's as I say in the book, it's good to miss each other sometimes.
Yes.
There's something really important happens there in that still time, because everything we're talking about is very much a personal journey.
Mm-hmm.
Share that with somebody, but if you're just with the other person, if you're always talking and never even doing things together in stillness, because you can be together in a room,
Yeah.
and be still. It's not like you have to spend physical space time apart, but you know, having the ability to talk to one another and say we're not going to just be doing everything together, talking to one another, engaging all the time is really important. Um, Even at a very simple level, you don't know how much somebody means to you until you kind of miss them a little bit. So where that gauge of enough me time and enough together time is, you have to, you know, stay in tune with that. And so if you're always glued together, you may get too close together, and then you lose the spark and you lose the appreciation. And so it's important to spend time just as a gauge. You'll know right away, up too much time apart, good, come back together a little closer, but that way you stay healthy.
Yes. And I think, like, you know, relating back to what you're just speaking about, it's about that come back to the identity thing. I feel like if, you know, you're in a relationship, you need to have your own identity. And speaking from my experience with relationship in the past, like being with someone so much all the time, I felt like I was molding into them. I mean, I don't know, I think some people do enjoy that, but for me, being someone who's so independent and so active, I need to have me time and have my own identity. Like, I don't want to be known as so-and-so's girlfriend all the time. I want to be known as Nhung, you know, this person. And yeah, she has a partner. So I don't know. I think that's probably why it did work out, you know, because we want different things. But it's just coming back to that, having that self, you know. And I feel like for me, and maybe for a lot of people, it's very important, you know, even if you're in a relationship or anything like that, do you have that identity still?
Right. And there's degrees to everything, you know. This whole topic of self-discovery, no, it's a question of degrees. Everyone is on their journey. Everyone is on the path of self-discovery. That's what living is. You can't avoid it. You can't escape it. As soon as things get too comfortable or too routine, we start to get antsy. And if life doesn't change on its own, most of the time it does. We don't even have to try. But even when it doesn't, we then become the change maker, just to change things up, because it doesn't feel right to just have a completely predictable life.
Yeah.
But so then degrees of identity are also in place. There, you know, an identity is a collection of beliefs. We're going a little deeper here.
Okay.
And a lot of those beliefs are, you know, again, the conditioned thinking. And that is really, these beliefs is through which we react to the world. And we see things that we agree with, and we see things we don't agree with, and it's a reflection of your identity, and that's the container of reactivity. So looking at the triggers again and recognizing, well, I feel upset because I carry a certain belief about something, and then allowing that belief to be. You don't have to say it's bad or resist it. That only keeps it stuck. But just observe it. It's really very simple. You just observe it, and it dissolves, and suddenly this belief that you need to defend yourself against somebody or a certain other belief, it just leaves you. And so obviously there's still some identity left at the end of the day. I mean, we can't completely, you know, evaporate. But it's a lot less than you know. That really, our life journey is to remove those layers of identity, so that, and as we do, we realize we're not this, you know, isolated single organism. I'm one, you're one, and you know, your friends are one, other people are. We're not all separate. As our personal identity relaxes,
Yeah.
we recognize and we become more connected with the whole, and we, you know, at some point we realize we're all just one.
Do you know what? That's a really good way to put it. Because I was just like, like, you know, for so long, it was like, I felt lost and everything like that. I've been finding myself, but, you know, now I realize you'll never find yourself because yourself is always changing. No, that's a really good way of putting it. You know, like, it's just too much pressure of having an identity when you just cut it, like you said, you know, just relax and just let things connect and flow, which makes more sense. Yeah.
And we just never really get a chance to relax, right? We're always, again, like chasing the next thing, chasing our happiness. And there are very few opportunities in modern life to take that break. And coming back to what you said in the beginning, this year or last year has been a break in that regard for many people, that we were in the rat race before and never really had a kind of a quiet moment for reflection, and years go by in that state, and decades even. And so this has been an opportunity, certainly, along with many difficulties. But it's been an opportunity to turn within and take some time that we haven't had before in a long time, if ever, for many.
Yeah, that is absolutely right. And in a way, you know, even though it's been quite, you know, sad and I lost a lot of things, and, you know, I really felt like I've gained a lot also internally, and that's huge. And for me, I never thought that I would reach that kind of like stage at all, because I wasn't aware of it, you know, like I said, coming back to like being in denial that there was an issue in the first place. Yeah, so it's been interesting, but the one thing I miss the most is obviously the traveling, you know, the external kind of exploration, but the internal exploration has been an interesting journey also. Another analogy.
Yeah, beautiful. Love it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, there, there's a bigger picture to everything, and when we get caught up in the little picture, it often things seem detrimental. I mean, you started out asking, you know, what was, at least you know, how my life ensued to get to this point, and you know, one of the core lessons has been that when we look outside of that, you know, reactivity is immediate. You're in that situation, you're embroiled with it, and you're not looking even a minute beyond what's happening right now. You're just reactive. You're reacting to the other person who upset you or whatever it is, the situation. And so there's zero perspective when we're in reactivity. But even just a minute. In fact, you know, in my workshops, I talk about the 3-second rule when we're listening to somebody. You may have heard it in other contexts. Being a good listener and being a mirror, a reflection for the other person to feel heard. If you give them just 3 seconds after they're seemingly done speaking, and just not say anything in response, and just be still, don't give away that you want to jump in or anything, just allow that little stillness again of a few seconds. So much magic happens in that little gap. So it doesn't take much, and you know, all the, you know, so many times I'm sure we've all experienced this. People come to us with a question or a dilemma, or they're upset or something, and vast majority of the times they just want to feel heard. They're not actually, they don't want an answer from you. They don't want to be analyzed. They don't even want advice, which sometimes that's tricky, especially in relationships, when they come to you and they say they want advice and they don't. They just want to feel heard. But okay, that's fine. So even a few seconds of stillness there's something happens. And it's like you hear yourself instead of the other person jumping in and telling you what to do. And then you might get defensive, all that. There's stillness, and whatever you just express, your feelings, your emotions, your thoughts, your trauma, whatever it is, in that space, healing happens. It's quite magical.
Wow, that's a really good concept. Oh man, I got it. Well, it's making me think now because I'm such a chatterbox, you know, always all the time. Maybe I should give people a break.
Yeah, that's good.
So is this like a known research, or like it was more of like a self discovery that you've kind of realized over time, you know, doing the 3-second stillness to give people that time and space?
Yeah, I mean, so like, you know, the 3-second rule, 2-second rule, some other people have different, that's been around for a long time. And I haven't looked at necessarily if, you know, has there been a scientific study for it? When something works, I don't feel the need to then have to look up some kind of number or study or something. It works, and I don't question it, you know, because of that. And many times that's what gets you back into your head.
Yeah.
You know, there's a place for the mind. It has its purpose, but like I said earlier, it's a tool. And it's a tool that we use. It's the mind doesn't know you. It doesn't have your innermost, you know, it doesn't care. It's not the source of your wisdom.
Yeah.
Your inner voice is. And
is your inner voice your heart, or how would you describe that?
Yeah, people. So I've heard, you know, is it your heart? Is it your, you know, is it your gut? Is it your instinct? Is it your just intuition, or your higher self, your inner divinity? You can, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
It can be all those things, but it is a voice. That's the nature of it. It speaks to you. And so, you know, without getting caught up on what is it exactly, it doesn't matter. There's something there that tells you who you are, and it tells you who you are every moment of the day, every situation. there's an opportunity to be you, to listen to yourself, or to go without those outside voices. So when those outside voices are so overwhelming and so loud, there's so much noise in your head. That's why we talk about self-care practice and the breathing and the meditation, and or even just walking in nature, just because you can feel that right away. You go for a long walk after you've been upset, and you come back, and you're calm. There's a certain peace. Heck, even just taking a shower, it will change your perspective if you're upset about something, and stepping back out. So it's just calming the mind, because it's always irritated and inflamed and being re-triggered by our reactivity. So once we come out of that, then everything starts to flow. We start to not have to like be fearful about the future. We don't have to think we have to plan everything out. You can look at what you need to, maybe some bullets to prepare for something, but what really naturally comes out, this talk between us is completely unscripted. We discuss nothing.
I know. I like that,
I quickly agreed, like, we don't want to plan ahead, because then it becomes, you can tell right away if you have had a teacher or even been to a presentation where the speaker reads from notes. And they're looking down, or that you can tell how they're reciting from their mind or something. It just dulls the whole experience. But when they're fresh and they're flowing and they're talking, which I hope we're doing right now, then it feels like it does. And so it feels great for us as well. But that joy and that enthusiasm comes across to the audience as well. And they pick that up and they discover that within themselves. So everything just gets better from being you.
And I think it's like, the authenticity. I think that's what I really learned to appreciate, like through my my growth and everything. And especially with the backpacking period that I went through, it taught me a lot of that, because I didn't plan anything. I just went with and if I felt like going to another country, then it's time to go. And the interactions that I made along the way was so pure and so beautiful, because then I do believe that things do happen for a reason. And during that time when I was going through something, I kept meeting people that I really resonated with, and having these deep topics and conversations that say were too uncomfortable to talk about at home. And just learning to flow a bit better. But, sometimes I feel like maybe I need to have some structure again, like, does it come back to having balance then? Or like, what is your input on that?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, if you feel, again, it's not for me to tell anyone they should do this or that, or anyone to tell you should do this or that. You are the master of your own, your own pace, your own, if you need change, you will feel it, and it's okay. There will be, these voices of fear or outside voices telling you shouldn't do this, or you should play it safe, and all these things. And you just have to learn to listen and trust yourself. And once you get going with that inner trust, then you're just without doubt. When you're questioning your decisions, when you second guess yourself, you're in your headspace. You're not really listening to your inner voice. You're listening to outside voices, and that's where all this kind of disorientation comes.
Yeah. Good way to put it. I didn't think about it that way. No, it's time to quiet it down and just go with it and let it be. But so with this book, I know that you've just released it the end of last month.
Yeah, it hasn't even been about a month. Yeah.
A month. That wonderful. Congratulations. So a lot of the topics we brought up today is actually from the book. I'm actually excited. So where can we find this book? Is it on Amazon, or where is it?
It's on Amazon. It's on Apple Books. It's going to be on Google Play in a few days. On my website, obviously, you can buy all the paperback, the Kindle on Amazon, obviously, just an ebook, all the different e-readers that you have. So it's pretty much in every format. I'm working on the audiobook version next. So people love to drive and listen. This is one of the things I learned, teaching for so many years. It's everyone learns differently.
Yeah.
And you cannot there's no blanket approach. So I'll try to, get as much out there. And a lot of people just jump into chapters. They don't read whole entire books. It's just not their style, their learning style, or not their way of life. Lifestyle plays a role as well. Yeah. So again, the book is written in such a way that you can just you can skip the first half if you want, just jump into a later chapter, because that's what's on your mind right now, and that's what you're needing to reflect on. and it won't diminish your experience of the book.
That's amazing. Because yeah, I've been, following your Instagram and I see some quotes out of it like, man, I need to get my hands on this soon. But that's been awesome. So with this, are you going to just focus on writing now, or are you still like working in the psychological research side of things right now?
Yeah. So really, the next focus is depending on whether in person and travel and all that opens up again. In the meantime, virtual workshops is going to be the focus, and tools, and also working on a practice journal. There are some practical chapters in the book, but it's more of a foundation.
Yeah.
And then from there, you can extract different exercises. So I'm working on that, and then obviously once in person is possible again, the live workshops I enjoy the most, and I think that's also where the exchange of energy and all that is possible, and you can just have a great time at it as well.
For sure. Like I'll probably pop down for a workshop or something. It's
Well,
what it's like.
yeah, I mean, there's a large contingent. About half of my followers are from Australia and India and Indonesia and the Asian part of the world, and so I love going there and spending time there as well. So definitely gonna try to cater to all the different time zones.
That's amazing, though. Well, okay, I had a really funny thought. Well, have you seen Chucky Chan, the Rush Hour 3?
I mean, I probably saw it at some point. Yeah, that's funny. But yes, I've seen some Jackie Chan movies.
Well, do you know the part where I think Chris Cirak was just like, oh, who are you? No, I am you. And then he's like, who is me?
Yes, exactly.
Well, I thought about it because your book, Be You, like, we don't want that confusion. We don't want to be anybody else but ourselves. Me, you, anybody. We just want to be, you just want to be you, So I guess maybe to end up this conversation, what kind of advice or wisdom would you like to bestow on our listeners in terms of being true to yourself? We don't want any more of that confusion and stuff. Sometimes I know it's hard, but what is your wisdom and your teachings for our listeners?
So there's two things really to keep in mind, and that is when you're experiencing fear, you're not being yourself. You can't be yourself out of a state of fear. Then you're listening to outside voices. You're in the future or even in the past, and that's a state that is not being you. So always be mindful. Those are very clear signs that again, having a practice in place. Make sure a daily practice. Make sure that you become more attuned to those signs and signals, and be able to, I'm feeling a certain way, I'm going to go and be still for a while, or go for that walk. It doesn't take much, and stay grounded that way. And so then the second piece is the recognizing that it just takes these little moments of these little opportunities of making decisions every day. It could be when you get up in the morning to get dressed, right? To go to work. Are you dressing for yourself, or are you dressing for the image that you want to portray, or the way you're going to be viewed? These little ordinary things all day long, they help build momentum, the BU momentum, if you will. So these are not these big decisions, life-altering decisions that you're looking to make. They might happen, but ultimately being you is a moment-to-moment awareness of staying connected, staying out of your head, and staying connected to your body and your being and your inner voice, and letting that guide you. And if you just do it in a few things, little things here and there, it starts to grow, and that it shows immediate results, positive results. And you realize there is nothing to fear. There's no, you cannot fail, and you don't have to figure out your life ahead of living it. Your path is sure to unfold itself all on its own.
Wow, that was beautiful. I feel so enlightened. No, that's a really great reminder. And that's the thing, like, I sometimes forget as well, I fall back into the fear zone. And then when you hear messages and, conversations like this again, it brings you back, to your higher self again, that the outer voice just kind of like dissolves. So yeah. Thank you so much. Like, I need to get my hands on this book straight away, guys. So remember to find it on.
Send you, yes.
Or send me a copy.
Yes.
But thank you so much, Chris. Like, it's been so informative and so enlightening to speak to you finally. And I was just like, I love your energy and I love your teachings as well. I've tuned in for, you know, a couple of live sessions you've done. So it has really helped me through 2020. So yeah, and I want to spread the message along as well to other people.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for reaching out. I know it took a while. I was still in the middle of finalizing the writings, and so I was really happy to let you, you got a hold of me again, and here we are. And we did it.
Yes, we did it. I have some technical difficulties, but it's okay. Thank you so much, Chris.
Wonderful. Thank you, Nhung. Talk to you soon. We'll do it again.